everyone, welcome back, and I'm Jen, and today we are going to do a true crime video. Before we get started on this case, I want to apologize to you guys for not being consistent as of late on videos. It is not anybody's fault but my own. As you guys know, I have been busy doing spring cleaning and other things, and well, videos kind of took a backseat, which was not my intention. So we're going to get started and getting back into the routine. So we're gonna do talk about Sandra Cantu. I think that's how you pronounce it. Don't quote me. um, but she was killed, or yeah, she disappeared from Tracy, California, on March 27th of 2009, and her body was discovered 10 days later inside of a suitcase in a local irrigation pond. And then on April the 10th, the police arrested a local woman by the name of Melissa Huckabee. She was 28 years old, and she was charged with kidnapping, rape, and murder of Sandra. She pleaded guilty to the kidnapping and the murder and was sentenced to life without possibility of parole. So we're going to get into the case. I'm going to talk about Sandra first, and then we're going to talk about how Melissa Huckabee ties into all this and how she was charged with all this, and I will get into who Melissa is also. So Sandra's body was discovered on March the 27th in 2009. She lived in Orchard East Estates Mobile Home Park in Tracy, California, with her mother, her grandparents, and 3 older siblings. And she played at a friend's house after school until approximately around 4 p.m. And she did return home. She later left home saying that she was going to play at another friend's house, but she did not return for dinner, and she was reported missing to the local police at 7:53 p.m. At that point in time, the police then collected footage recorded by a surveillance camera that was near the family home. The footage showed that Sandra was crossed the street in front of her home before moving out of frame. And this was played on national news stations. There was a search of the mobile home complex that was conducted, and without results, the FBI was then called in to assist on the case. And over the course of the weekend of March 28th to the 29th, the canine dogs, the equestrian teams, all-terrain vehicles, and a helicopter were brought in to search for her. A $22,000 reward was offered for the information in the case. There was one suspect that was early on, that they suspected early on, and he was a local man who was witnessed to kissing Sandra on the lips 2 years earlier at a swimming pool. He was interviewed but was cleared of any kind of an involvement. On April the 6th, a suitcase containing Sandra's body was found during a routine draining of an irrigation pond. An autopsy established that Sandra had been beaten and sexually abused before being smothered, sexually abused with a foreign object before she was smothered, and while toxicology results showed that she had ingested alprazolam. Yeah, alprazolam. Don't know how to pronounce that. Then there was an investigation that pursued or ensued after that. There was a profile that the FBI experts assigned to the case that the profile contained a white male aged between 25 and 40 with a criminal history of sexual assault or child porn. Upon finding her body, the police became suspicious of a number of coincidences where Melissa Huckabee was involved. Now, Melissa, now we're going to get into who she is. Melissa was a 28-year-old Sunday school teacher, and she lived in the same trailer park that Sandra and her family did. Let's see, gonna get into her. She yeah, I've lost my thought. It was said that it was said that she had bipolar disorder, but again, I found a couple things. She had borderline personality disorder, bipolar disorder, and schizophrenia. So again, this woman does have a lot of, issues with her. Now, on the day that Sandra had went missing, Melissa sent a text to Sandra's mother that said, "Tell the police that I had something stolen today around 4 p.m. I don't know if that makes a difference or not." Now, I don't know why that would make any kind of a difference to anybody, because remember, her mother, Sandra's mother, has already filed a missing persons report. They're investigating her disappearance. Why Melissa would, send this text message to her mother if, quote, she didn't, isn't really considered having anything to do with this. So I'm assuming that as soon as Melissa sent this text message, that's when they started to one of the reasons why they started looking into Melissa Huckabee. I'm not sure. The next day, there was a vigil for Sandra, and Melissa Huckabee approached the police and the FBI to report that she had found a note on the ground. And they reported that she was very agitated, she was crying, and she was hyperventilated. The note, they looked at the note, and the note read, and I'll quote what the note said: "Cantu locked in stolen suitcase." Now the spelling of stolen is spelled wrong. "Thrown in water on Buschetti Road and Whitehall Road. Witnesses." So that's basically what the note said. Mind you, their grammar was totally, completely, all kind of screwed up. Huckabee had, of course, as I said, that she had a history of mental problems, and including schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, and borderline personality disorder. Prior to the discovery of Sandra's body, Melissa Huckabee was not considered a prime suspect. She was interviewed a couple of times on multiple, times or whatever, But her behavior, they just assumed that she was an attention seeker um, rather than her being rather than they didn't suspect her, even though she was. They just assumed that she was just trying to get attention. After the body was found in a suitcase that Huckabee had reported stolen, they began to take a closer look at Melissa's behavior. And which one of the things that they noticed was the unusual fact that a woman who reported losing a suitcase would be the one woman out of everyone in this trailer park complex who should happen to find a note that reports the stolen suitcase that was used to hide the child's body. So to me, I would think, now I'm not saying, that they weren't wrong to kind of just, go ahead and start kind of saying, okay, this sounds, hinky, whatever you want to call it, because she brought this note. Again, I don't know the situation. They also did receive another lead when a retired United States Marine and his wife notified the police that they had spotted Melissa and her SUV at the irrigation pond where Sandra's body was found. And they recognized her from TV. They described her as being distracted and hurried, and she had told him that she had to, quote, "I just had to pee real quick," when he saw her. Now, the police continued to review the footage from the surveillance camera that was installed outside of Sandra's home, which showed Sandra walking in the direction of Melissa's residence at 3:54 p.m. on March 27th. The camera had captured Melissa's SUV driving in the opposite direction 8 minutes later. Now, at approximately around the same time, Huckabee had called the trailer park manager to report that a suitcase made by a well-known manufacturer, Eddie Bauer, had been stolen from her trailer. And then 85 minutes later, a surveillance camera that was located outside of the parking lot of the church where Melissa taught Sunday school captured her driving away from the church. Now, a half an hour after that, she was captured returning to the church. And it was during this 30-minute time frame that she was spotted at the irrigation pond. The FBI searched the church. They collected a rolling pin from the kitchen, which reportedly had a bloody smudge on it, as well as a bent handle. They tested the rolling pin, and it was positive for Sandra's DNA. I don't need to tell you what it was probably used for. On April the 10th of 2009, Melissa was arrested and charged with the murder of Sandra. She received more charges regarding the druggings of a 7-year-old girl and a 37-year-old man. Now, these charges were dropped as part of a plea bargain. And Melissa pleaded guilty to the first-degree murder and the kidnapping of Sandra in order to avoid the death penalty. She was sentenced to life in prison, and now at her trial or sentencing or whatever, she did she did basically she did yeah, what I want to say, she as part of her plea deal that she made, of course, she has to basically, tell everybody what she did. She also um, spoke with the mother, and she does deny sexually assaulting Sandra, and she did ask, the sexual assault charge was dropped, and because she denied that, and she asked Sandra's mother for forgiveness. She didn't suffer, and this is her quote, she didn't suffer, and I did not sexually molest her. I'm asking you, Maria, for your forgiveness. I can't imagine forgiving someone who harmed my daughter. I hope someday that you can forgive me. Now, some of the injuries that Sandra received, were a cut to her lip, an abrasion on her elbow, and injuries to her private area. Um, Now, there was a gag order that was placed to prevent a lot of details in the trial to come forward, which I can understand. I mean, you got to realize, this child was, this was an 8-year-old child that was sexually assaulted and then, killed. And he does eventually lift the gag order. And I've tried to see more of the details of the crime, of the actual what happened. And there's not a whole lot different than what I've told you, because now I do have this is about the jury transcripts. Now, she's drugged Sandra, sexually assaulted her with a rolling pin before strangling her with an alcohol-soaked noose. Now, why it was soaked in alcohol, I'm not quite sure, because that doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. Why would you soak it in alcohol? Not unless it's the rubbing alcohol. I don't know. It doesn't give you what kind of alcohol she soaked it in. Now, what I didn't realize, and as I was looking closer into this, when they found her body, there was a blood-soaked cloth that I guess was used as the noose, and that was basically used to strangle her. And it was very, very this whole thing was, and the funny part, which I didn't know, and as I was reading over this, and I'm sorry, we're going all over the place with this one. She was murdered in the church that Melissa taught Sunday school in. And which nobody knew. Now, what I also found was kind of funny was, and I don't want to say funny, but I don't know if this was kind of a coincidence, and if Melissa Huckabee thought, okay, if I do this in this church, I'm not going to get in trouble because, her grandfather was the pastor of this church. And I don't know if she thought, okay, I'm just going to get away with it because her grandfather was the pastor. I don't really know. All we know is that it was her grandfather's church, which I thought was just kind of, I don't want to say coincidental, but okay. Um, she now also found out that Melissa Huckabee was also put on suicide watch during this. Now, I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's because of her mental issues. It didn't come out. It didn't really come out and say. It was just kind of weird. And remember, I said that she kind of inserted herself and just assumed, and the police thought she was getting a lot of attention. She attended several vigils, which I thought was just kind of weird. And one of the reasons that they started looking at Melissa for this was there was a lot of inconsistencies in her story. Now, those of you that don't understand the I guess the link between Sandra and Melissa. Melissa's daughter was Sandra's best friend. So now why Melissa wanted, why Melissa killed Sandra, nobody knows. That there's really no motive. That just kind of, but again, there were inconsistencies. Now her uncle, said that she did have a good life. Melissa's uncle said that she had a good life and she moved in with her grandparents to get past all of her troubles. And one thing that it doesn't really give you any kind of information. Like I said, this is there's so many there's just a lot of things that it makes no sense. This whole thing makes no sense to me whatsoever as to why she did this. She doesn't really give any kind of a reason. She more or less apologizes. Now they're I do know that she did plead not guilty, but that, didn't kind of, that of course didn't happen. Because, there really wasn't any kind of a, reason as to why, she did this. I mean, not that, there would be a good enough reason for someone to do this. I mean, to me, I'm not saying I feel bad for Melissa because of all of her mental issues, but again, why, you've known this girl, your daughter is her best friend, and then for no reason, or it seems like for no reason at all, you just up and do this. I mean, it just, I've tried to look up the history of Melissa, and there really isn't anything to kind of, give you any kind of background as to, Melissa's background, period. There's, I've searched and searched and searched, and there really isn't any kind of background whatsoever. It just focuses on Sandra's, what happened to Sandra and what she did to Sandra. And I think that's just kind of it. I mean, the only information that we possibly have, or that there is that she, she lived there with her grandfather to try to get past all of her basically start over and just try to get on with her life and you better herself because of her past issues. And again, I've tried to look this up. I haven't found anything about past issues because it doesn't give you any kind of information as to why, except maybe she was jealous. Now, why she would be jealous of Sandra, that's a good question. I'm really not, it doesn't tell you why she was, jealous of Sandra, or why it really, it's kind of one of those open things that she kind of doesn't, it doesn't tell you anything. So I just thought that was just kind of, strange. So I know it was kind of short, sweet, and to the point. And, but that's it for this one, guys. I know it was kind of all over the place. But I really appreciate y'all listening. And if you have any, suggestions for, cases you want me to talk about, please comment below. If you like the video, please hit the like button. And if this is your first time, welcome. And please subscribe if you haven't already. And guys, until then, have a great week.